Title: Everyone left her, except the one who stayed. But what he discovered when he stayed changed everything. Maya had built her life around everyone else's happiness, until it all came crashing down. Her fiancé walked out a week before their wedding. Her best friend moved away without goodbye. And in the silence that followed, the only person who didn't leave was Ethan, her quiet neighbor who always seemed to be there when she needed someone least and most. He never asked for anything, just listened, fixed her leaking tap, left coffee at her door, and smiled like he understood what it meant to break silently. But as the days turned into months, Maya began to see that Ethan wasn't just kind. He was hiding something. A reason he never let anyone close. A secret that made every moment between them feel borrowed. When the truth finally surfaces, Maya must decide if love means holding on or letting go of the one who taught her how to live again. Watch till the end, because her fiancé walking out a week before their wedding was only the beginning. Welcome back, Moonlight Dreamers, and if you're new, welcome to our channel where you don't find captivating stories, it finds you. If you love romantic tales that stir your heart and haunt your sleep, make sure to like, subscribe, and let the moon guide you home each night. Let's dive back into our story. They said heartbreak is silent. But that night Maya's world broke loudly, with the sound of a shattered teacup, a sob she didn't recognize as her own, and a letter that began with, "I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore." The wedding dress still hung by the window, white and untouched like a ghost waiting for its cue. 1 week. That was all it took for love to turn into something that looked like punishment. Maya hadn't left the apartment in 3 days. Her phone buzzed with sympathy texts she couldn't bear to read. Then, hiss! A sharp sound. Water spraying from the kitchen sink, flooding the floor. Perfect. Even her pipes were giving up on her. She grabbed a towel, cursed under her breath, but the pressure only worsened. The flood climbed around her bare feet, cold as the silence that had followed her fiancé's goodbye. Then, knock, knock, knock. 3 gentle knocks, not hurried, not demanding. Calm. She hesitated, clutching the towel like a shield. "Who is it?" A quiet voice replied. "Ethan, from next door. I heard the pipe." Maya opened the door to see a man in a faded gray hoodie, holding a toolbox. He didn't look like a plumber, more like someone trying not to be noticed. His eyes were kind, though, the kind that carried a quiet heaviness, as if they'd seen more storms than they ever deserved. Without waiting for permission, Ethan stepped in, knelt by the sink, and started working. No questions, no awkward small talk, just the rhythmic click of tools and the soft hum of the song she used to love. Their song. Maya froze. "How do you know that song?" she whispered. Ethan paused, almost flinching, then shrugged. "It's just something I heard once." Minutes later, the leak stopped. The water stilled, but the silence that followed was louder than before. He stood, wiped his hands, and said, "There, should be fine now." "Thank you," she managed, forcing a smile. He nodded, eyes flicking toward the dress by the window. "Big day soon?" Her voice cracked. "Not anymore." Ethan looked like he wanted to say something, but didn't. Instead, he picked up his bag and walked toward the door. When the door clicked shut, Maya exhaled, and for the first time the apartment felt less empty. But as she bent to mop the floor, her gaze caught something glinting near the counter. A small white envelope half sticking out of Ethan's toolbox, left behind. Her name was written on it. Maya and Daniel. Her breath hitched. It was a wedding card, from her own canceled ceremony. The card wasn't opened, but a faint smudge of fresh fingerprints marked the seal. Maya's hands trembled. Why did her quiet neighbor have that card? And why did it look like it had been opened before? The wedding card lay in her trembling hands like a ghost from a life she never got to live. The edges were wet from the leaking pipe. Her name, Maya Carter, written in her fiancé's neat handwriting beside his. But what made her blood run cold wasn't the handwriting. It was the faint thumbprint smeared across the seal. Fresh. Ethan's thumbprint. She hesitated, heart hammering. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe he found it in the mailroom. But something about the way he looked at her wedding dress earlier, too long, too quiet, made her chest tighten with unease. The next morning she waited, coffee in hand. Door cracked open just enough to catch him as he passed. And when he did, hoodie, headphones, toolbox again, she stepped out. "Ethan." He turned, surprised but calm. "Morning." Maya held up the card. "You dropped this." He blinked once, then said evenly, "Oh, that. The building manager asked me to clear out the old mailboxes. Must have been mixed in." "Sorry." His voice was steady, almost rehearsed. But his eyes didn't match. There was something tired in them. The kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from lack of sleep, but from carrying secrets too heavy to speak. She wanted to ask why her mail, why that card, but the words tangled on her tongue. He gave a faint smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Guess we both had rough weeks," he said softly, and before she could reply, he was gone, back into that quiet apartment next door that somehow always felt awake. That night the walls were thin enough for loneliness to slip through. Maya lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to forget his voice, his calm, that look in his eyes. Then, faintly through the wall came music. Her song. The same one she heard him hum the night before, the one she used to dance to with Daniel, barefoot in their kitchen, when love still felt possible. Her chest ached. She pressed her ear to the wall. The melody was slow, careful, almost reverent. She whispered, "Ethan," knowing he couldn't hear. But when the song ended, a low thud followed, like someone had dropped something heavy. Then silence. Her phone lit up beside her. 1:02 a.m. She opened her messages, fingers trembling, and typed to her best friend, "You remember the guy next door? I think he's playing my song. It's weird. Should I be worried?" She hit send. The dots danced for a second, then disappeared. A moment later, the reply appeared on her screen. "This number is no longer in service." Her stomach dropped. She stared at the screen as the soft sound of the song started again through the wall, only this time someone was humming along, and it wasn't Ethan's voice. Maya pressed her ear to the wall again. A woman's voice hummed the melody now, low, haunting, and heartbreakingly familiar. It was her own. The next morning, Maya woke with a start, her phone still in her hand, the haunting melody echoing faintly in her ears. For a moment, she wasn't sure what had been real, the humming, the message, or the silence that followed. But then, she smelled coffee. She sat up, heart pounding. The scent was strong and fresh, cutting through the stale air of her apartment. When she opened the door, a paper cup sat on the welcome mat, steam curling into the chilly morning air. Beneath it was a note written in neat handwriting, "For the sleepless ones." No name, no explanation. But she knew. Ethan. For reasons she couldn't explain, her first instinct wasn't fear, it was warmth, a fragile kind of gratitude. Someone had noticed. Someone cared enough to see she hadn't slept, and didn't pity her for it. She hesitated before taking a sip. It was perfect. Exactly the way she used to make it. 2 sugars, no cream. Her breath caught. How could he have known? When she stepped into the hallway, Ethan was there, locking his door. Their eyes met, and the corners of his mouth lifted into a half smile. "Didn't mean to startle you," he said softly. "I just figured you looked like someone who could use caffeine more than sleep." Maya laughed for the first time in weeks, a soft, cracked sound that almost startled her. That obvious? Only to people who've been there. They ended up sitting on the stairwell with 2 cups of coffee, the conversation flowing easier than she expected. He talked about the building's constant plumbing issues, about the neighbor's cats that always meowed outside his window, and somehow, between those simple things, She found herself smiling again. She hadn't realized how long it had been since she'd smiled. For the first time, Ethan didn't feel like a stranger. He was calm, funny in a quiet way, like every word he said had been thought through before it left his lips. There was sadness behind his humor, but he carried it gracefully, the way someone does when they've accepted that life doesn't always heal cleanly. As they parted, he said, "If you ever can't sleep again, just knock. I'm usually awake too." And somehow, that simple offer felt safer than all the promises Daniel had ever made. That night, Maya cooked dinner for the first time since the breakup. She played music softly, not the song from before, but something lighter. It felt like reclaiming air after months underwater. By midnight, she was curled on the couch with her coffee cup beside her when a knock startled her. 3 knocks. Firm, deliberate. She smiled. "Ethan?" she called, opening the door. But it wasn't Ethan. A tall man in a dark coat stood in the hallway, rain dripping from his sleeves. His eyes were cold, searching. "Sorry to bother you," he said, pulling a photo from his pocket. "Have you seen this man?" Maya froze. The photo was damp, edges creased, but the face was unmistakable. "Ethan." Her voice caught in her throat. Why? What happened?" The man's expression didn't change. "If you see him," he said, tucking the photo back into his coat, "don't tell him you spoke to me." Then he turned and walked down the hall, leaving muddy footprints behind. Maya stood frozen in her doorway, the rain's reflection rippling across her floor. As she looked down, a drop of water slid from the photo, revealing faint words scrawled across the back. "If he finds out, run." The photo still trembled in Maya's hands long after the stranger disappeared down the hall. "If he finds out, run." The words on the back burned in her mind, heavy and wrong. She locked her door, checked it twice, and tried to convince herself it was nothing. A misunderstanding, a prank, maybe even someone mistaking Ethan for another man. When morning came, she found him again, sitting on the steps outside their building, sipping his usual black coffee as if the world hadn't tilted overnight. "You look like you saw a ghost," he said lightly. Maya hesitated, then showed him the photo. "Someone came looking for you last night. He said he was a private investigator. He left this." Ethan's brow furrowed for a second before he smiled, too easily. "Ah, yeah, him. He's a scammer, keeps targeting tenants in this area, claims everyone's a missing person so he can get access to their records. Ignore him." His voice was calm. Too calm. Maya wanted to believe him. She did believe him, or tried to. His tone carried that quiet confidence that made you feel safe even when the truth was screaming in the background. "Promise me you won't talk to him again," Ethan said softly. "He feeds on fear. That's how he wins." And just like that, she nodded, letting the conversation slip into safer places. About the weather, about the old elevator that creaked like a ghost at midnight. They laughed again. For a moment, the unease faded. That evening, she poured herself wine and turned on the TV for the first time in weeks. The evening news flickered to life. Another missing person case, another grim headline. She wasn't paying attention until a photo flashed on the screen. Her hand froze mid-air. The glass slipped, shattering against the floor. The same man from last night, the one at her door, stood beside a police car, giving an interview. The caption beneath him read, "Private Investigator Thomas Ray, aiding in the search for fugitive Ethan Cole, missing since last November." The screen shifted, and there it was. Ethan's photo. The same smile, the same eyes. Her breath caught. Ethan Cole. Her neighbor's name wasn't Ethan Cole. It wasn't anything. He'd never told her his last name at all. Maya stumbled back, her heartbeat slamming against her ribs. Every conversation replayed in her head. His calm explanations, his knowing smile, his words. Only people who've been there. The glass shards glittered on the floor, reflecting her panic. Then, a sound. Tap, tap, tap. Her curtains shifted slightly. Maya turned. A shadow loomed outside her window, the rain running in rivulets down the glass. Her breath hitched as she stepped closer, each heartbeat louder than the last. The figure outside pressed a hand to the window. Blood streaked down the glass. It was Ethan. His hoodie was torn, his face pale, eyes wild with pain. "Maya," he mouthed through the glass. "They found me." The lights flickered, once, twice, before plunging the apartment into darkness. Outside, thunder rolled, and when lightning struck, Ethan was gone. But the blood on the window remained. The blood on the window hadn't dried yet. It clung to the glass in slow, trembling streaks as Maya stumbled backward, her heart pounding like a trapped bird. "Ethan?" she whispered, though the storm drowned her voice. Then, a knock. Weak, desperate. She ran to the door. He was there, drenched, shivering, clutching his side. His gray hoodie was torn open, revealing a crimson stain spreading fast beneath his hand. "Maya, please, let me in." She froze for half a heartbeat, every rational thought screaming no. But his eyes weren't the eyes of a stranger. They were broken, terrified, pleading. And before she could stop herself, she pulled him inside. The moment the door shut, he collapsed. "Ethan!" She caught him, lowering him to the couch. "What happened? Who did this to you?" He winced, gripping her wrist weakly. Don't call anyone. "Ethan, you're bleeding. Please." His voice cracked, low and urgent. "If you call them, they'll take me away again." That word, again, froze her in place. Rain hammered against the windows like restless fingers. Maya grabbed her old first aid kit, hands trembling as she cleaned the gash on his ribs. The blood was thick and dark, and she could see the pain rip through him with every breath. "I need to take you to a hospital," she whispered. "No," he rasped, grabbing her hand again. His grip was weak but desperate. "They'll find me. You don't understand, they'll erase everything." His eyes searched hers, wild and frightened, like someone running from ghosts that never stopped chasing. Maya hesitated, torn between reason and the ache in her chest. Something about the fear in his voice felt too real to ignore. "Then tell me who they are," she said softly. "Help me understand." He shook his head. "You can't. It's not just me, Maya. It's everyone." She stared at him, confused, scared, but also something else. Something dangerously close to care. Maybe it was pity. Maybe it was the loneliness she saw reflected in him. The same loneliness that had followed her since Daniel left. She stitched the edge of his wound as best as she could, her fingers trembling. He barely flinched. "You're safe here," she whispered, even though she wasn't sure it was true. "Whoever you're running from, they won't get you tonight." His lips curved faintly. "You shouldn't have opened the door." Her throat tightened. "Why?" His gaze softened. "Because once you do, it's hard to close it again." For a moment, neither of them moved. The storm raged outside, lightning flickering across their faces. A brief flash of peace in the middle of chaos. Then his eyelids fluttered. His breathing slowed. "Ethan?" He didn't answer. "Hey, stay with me." He stirred faintly, his voice a whisper, barely a breath. "Maya, if they come back, don't trust." He swallowed hard, then added one final word, soft, broken, and haunting. "Lila." And then he went still. The lights flickered again. The storm roared louder, and Maya stood frozen, staring at the unconscious man bleeding on her couch. On the floor beside him, something slipped from his pocket. A torn photograph of a woman who looked exactly like her. Scrawled on the back in smeared ink was a single word: Leela. The storm had passed by morning, but the silence it left behind was worse. It sat heavy in the apartment, pressing, humming, as Maya stood over Ethan's sleeping body. His breathing was shallow, his brow slick with sweat. On the table beside him lay the torn photograph. Her photograph, or at least it should have been. The woman in the picture had her face, same hair, same eyes, even the faint scar above her eyebrow. But there was something different in her expression. This woman smiled like she knew something Maya didn't. Maya turned the photo over again. That word, Lila. Her fingers trembled as she opened her phone and typed it into the search bar. Lila Reynolds. It didn't take long. The first result was a news headline dated 5 years ago. Tragic disappearance. Lila Reynolds, 27, missing without a trace. Fiancé questioned. Maya's breath hitched. She scrolled. There was a photo, the same one she held now, taken in front of a lighthouse near Clearwater Bay. Below it, a line froze her in place. Her fiancé, Ethan Cole, was last seen days before her disappearance. Authorities believed he fled after questioning. Maya dropped the phone, the sound echoing through the room. The man sleeping on her couch, the one who had fixed her sink, left coffee at her door, smiled like he understood her silence, was a wanted man. She stepped closer, staring at him as he murmured something in his sleep. One word repeated, fragile, like a prayer. Lila. Lila. Her chest tightened. Who was this woman? A lover? A ghost? A replacement? Maya backed away slowly. She needed to understand what she had stepped into. When Ethan stirred again, she slipped quietly into his apartment next door. His keys had been left on her counter, and she hated herself for taking them. But she had to know. His place was dim and eerily neat. No clutter, no personal touches. Just a bed, a single plant near the window, and a drawer by the nightstand. Her heart pounded as she opened it. Inside were photos, dozens of them. Lila's face stared back from everyone. But then her fingers brushed something else, something newer, a picture of her. Maya, taken through her kitchen window, through her balcony, smiling once, crying another time, all recent. Her throat went dry. At the bottom of the drawer lay a small velvet box. She hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a ring, silver, simple, and gleaming like it was waiting. But what sent chills crawling up her spine were the tiny initials carved inside the lid. M.R. Maya Reynolds. Her breath caught. No, that wasn't possible. She slammed the box shut, heart racing, and turned, only to find Ethan standing at the doorway, his shirt still stained with blood, his eyes half-shadowed in the dim light. Maya. His voice rasped, quiet and broken. You shouldn't be in here. Her voice trembled. Who is Lila, Ethan? He stared at her, not angry, not surprised, just tired. She was my fiancé, he said softly. She disappeared, and for a long time I thought she was gone forever. Maya's pulse hammered. Then why do you have pictures of me? He took a step closer, eyes flickering with something unreadable. Because, he whispered, sometimes the past doesn't stay buried. It just wears a new face. Thunder rolled again, distant but rising. Maya's phone buzzed on the counter. A new message. Unknown number. No profile. No name. She opened it. You're not safe with him. Lila tried to leave too. The message burned on Maya's phone like a wound that refused to close. You're not safe with him. Lila tried to leave too. Her breath came in shallow bursts as she lifted her gaze from the glowing screen to Ethan standing in the doorway. The shadows carved deep lines across his face, but his eyes, those calm, unreadable eyes, were darker now, flickering with something between pain and fury. Who sent that? He asked, voice low, dangerous. Maya hid the phone behind her back. I don't know. You went through my things, he said, stepping closer, his tone cracking. You shouldn't have done that. I had to, she snapped, voice trembling but sharp. You lied about who you are, Ethan. There are pictures of me, of Lila. What was I supposed to think? He froze mid-step. For a heartbeat, silence stretched between them. Thick, electric. Then, without warning, Ethan's hand shot out, grabbing the drawer she'd opened and slamming it shut so hard the frame rattled. Maya flinched, backing away, her pulse wild. Ethan dragged a hand down his face, breath shaking. I didn't kill her, he said, voice breaking. I swear to God, Maya, I didn't kill Lila. Something in his tone cracked the wall of fear inside her. His voice wasn't cold. It was haunted. He sank to his knees, shoulders trembling. They said I did it. The police, the papers, everyone. But there was no body, just blood by the pier, and her engagement ring floating in the water. I searched for her for months. I lost everything. Maya's eyes softened. So you ran? He nodded, tears streaking through the grime on his face. I ran because I didn't know who to trust anymore. And when I found this building, I just wanted to disappear. But then... He looked up at her, eyes glassy. You moved in next door. And you looked just like her. The words hit her like a slow knife. So that's it, she whispered. You kept me close because I reminded you of her. No, he said quickly. At first, yes, maybe. But then you started talking. You laughed, you cared. You weren't her, Maya. You were you. Before she could respond, a loud bang echoed through the hallway, sharp and hollow like a door slamming open. The lights flickered once, twice. Then everything went dark. The apartment drowned in black silence. Maya froze. Ethan? He turned, eyes narrowing toward the window where the storm raged again, lightning flashing across his pale face. From somewhere on the other side of the wall, her wall, came the faintest sound. A slow, deliberate footstep. Then another. Maya's blood ran cold. Someone's in my apartment. Ethan stood, grabbing a flashlight from the counter. Its beam flickered weakly as he handed it to her. Stay behind me. They stepped into the hallway. The air was damp, the sound of rain muffled by the heavy silence pressing in. Her door was ajar. She swore she'd locked it. Ethan pushed it open, the flashlight cutting through the darkness. The living room was empty, the curtain swaying slightly from the open balcony door. The faint smell of salt water lingered, sharp and cold. Maya's eyes darted around, scanning every corner. Nothing. Until her gaze landed on the kitchen counter. Her phone was there, but the screen was lit again. Another message. You should have stayed out of it, Maya. And beneath it, a live photo attachment. She tapped it before she could stop herself. The short clip played, grainy, taken from inside her apartment. The frame showed Ethan standing right where he was now. Only this was recorded hours ago. He was staring at her bedroom door and whispering, I told you I'd find you, Lila. The flashlight slipped from Maya's trembling hands, rolling across the floor. When she looked back up, Ethan was gone. The sound of shattering glass ripped through the darkness. Maya's heart jumped as the flashlight rolled across the floor, its beam slicing through the air before dying completely. Ethan, she whispered, voice trembling. No answer, just the soft rhythm of rain against the window, and footsteps, slow, purposeful, inside her apartment. She backed away until her spine hit the wall. A shadow moved across the hallway, broad shoulders, steady gait, not Ethan's. Whoever it was, they weren't searching. They were hunting. The door creaked. She darted into the narrow space between the wall and the couch, clutching the small lamp like a weapon. Every breath felt like thunder. A low male voice echoed through the living room. Ethan, I know you're here. Her blood ran cold. Then, a sudden hand gripped her wrist from behind. She almost screamed until a whisper brushed her ear. Quiet. It's me. Ethan. His voice was raw, low. He pulled her into the tiny utility closet, shutting the door silently. They stood pressed together in pitch darkness, her heartbeat hammering against his chest. Through the crack in the door, they could see the intruder's shadow moving, the faint glint of a gun in his hand. "Who is he?" Maya mouthed. Ethan's jaw tightened. "If I'm right, Lila's brother." Her eyes widened. "What?" He nodded grimly. "Liam Reynolds. He never believed I was innocent." The man's footsteps drew closer to the closet. They could hear him muttering, voice filled with venom. "She trusted you, Ethan. You took her from us. You took everything." Maya's throat closed. The man's silhouette loomed inches from the door now. Ethan's arm slid protectively around her waist. For a heartbeat, she thought he might throw himself out to protect her. But then, a sound from the hallway saved them. Sirens. Faint, distant, growing closer. Liam cursed under his breath and turned. A few seconds later, the front door slammed. They waited. 1 minute, then 2. Ethan exhaled shakily. He's gone. When he pushed the closet door open, the apartment looked violated. Drawers open, papers scattered, rainwater seeping across the floor from the broken window. Maya stepped out slowly, still shaking. "He was looking for you," she said. Ethan nodded, scanning the chaos. "He won't stop, not until he finds proof I killed her." "But you didn't." He met her gaze and for a moment didn't answer. Just looked at her, then said quietly, "No, but he's not the only one who thinks I did." Her heart sank. "What do you mean?" He looked away. "There are things you don't know about Lila. Things I shouldn't have hidden from you." Before he could continue, Maya spotted something on the floor. A torn piece of fabric caught beneath the couch. She crouched, pulling it free. It was from a coat. Liam's coat. And tucked inside the fabric was something folded. Small, creased, and dry. A photograph. Her stomach dropped. It was her. Taken through her window. The same clothes she'd worn last night. But what made her chest tighten was the handwriting on the back. "She looks just like her." Maya's knees weakened. "Ethan." He turned, saw the photo, and froze. The color drained from his face. "Where did you get that?" he asked quietly. "It fell from his pocket," she whispered. "Ethan, why does he have a picture of me?" He stepped closer, eyes wide, not with anger but terror. "Because, Maya." His voice trembled. "Lila didn't vanish 5 years ago. She vanished yesterday." Maya's grip loosened, and the photo fluttered to the wet floor. "Well, what are you talking about? That's impossible." Before he could answer, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway again. Slower, deliberate. Closer. Someone was back. And this time, the footsteps stopped right outside their door. A faint, familiar knock followed. 3 soft taps. The same pattern Ethan had used. The first night they met. Maya turned to Ethan in horror. He wasn't at the door. He was standing behind her. And he whispered, trembling, "That's how she used to knock." The knock hung in the silence, soft, deliberate, echoing like a ghost's memory. 3 taps. The same rhythm Ethan once used when he stood at her door, coffee in hand, smile gentle, eyes unreadable. But now, he was behind her. Pale. Frozen. Maya's breath trembled as the doorknob rattled once, then stilled. She could feel Ethan's fear. Sharp, cold, real. "Don't open it," he whispered. The rain outside intensified, the faint light from the hallway flickering against the cracks of the door. Whoever stood there wasn't in a hurry. They waited, listening. Then, nothing. Just the low hum of the storm. After what felt like hours, Ethan moved. Slowly. Carefully. He locked the deadbolt and stepped back. His shoulders sagged. We're not safe here anymore. Maya crossed her arms, trying to hide her shaking. You need to tell me what's going on, Ethan. Right now. He looked at her, and for the first time, didn't look away. You deserve the truth. She nodded, silent. I didn't just meet you the day you moved in, Maya, he said quietly. I knew who you were before that. Her heart stumbled. What do you mean? He hesitated, then continued. 5 years ago, when Lila disappeared, there was only one witness who could prove I didn't kill her, a young woman who saw me driving away from the lake that night. You. Maya stared at him, disbelief flooding her chest. That's impossible. I didn't even know you. You didn't, he admitted. You gave a statement to the police, said the man you saw didn't match the suspect's description. That statement cleared me. It's the only reason I wasn't charged. She blinked, stunned. Her voice came out small. You moved here? Because of me? I needed to see you, to understand why you did it, why you helped a stranger. He swallowed hard. But when I saw you, I couldn't just walk away. You were broken, she whispered bitterly. Human, he said softly. Like me. The words settled between them, fragile and heavy. For a long moment, there was only silence. Two people bound by accident, grief, and something they didn't dare name. Maya looked down at the floor, her voice barely audible. All this time, you knew? He nodded. Every word, every time you talked about loss. I wanted to tell you, but I was afraid you'd look at me differently. I already do, she said, and walked past him toward the window. Outside, the storm had gentled to a drizzle. The streetlight flickered over the wet pavement, just like the night she met him. She needed to breathe, to think. She reached for her phone, her fingers trembling, and saw the notification. One new email, no subject, no sender. Her pulse quickened. She tapped it open. No text, just a single image attachment. She hesitated, then opened it. Her breath caught. It was Ethan, standing beneath the same streetlight outside her building. His head turned slightly toward the camera. But it wasn't that froze her blood. It was the woman standing beside him. Lila, smiling, alive. Maya staggered back, the phone slipping from her hand. The screen flickered, the image vanishing before she could screenshot it. Ethan, she whispered. This was taken recently. He looked at her, confusion twisting into dread. What did you see? She pointed at the phone, her voice breaking. Lila, she's alive, and she's with you. His face drained of color. That's not possible. Then explain it. Before he could respond, a faint sound came from the hallway, a new knock. Softer this time. Familiar. Maya froze. Ethan turned toward the door, his jaw tightening. But this time, a woman's voice followed. Low, calm, chillingly gentle. Ethan, it's me. Are you ready to come home? Maya's heart stopped. She knew that voice. She had heard it once before, in one of Ethan's dreams, when he whispered the name that made him flinch in his sleep. Lila. The air in the room turned electric. Ethan took one slow step back, eyes wide. She can't be here, he murmured. She can't. The lights flickered once, then went out completely. In the pitch-black silence, the door creaked open on its own. A silhouette stood in the doorway, hair dripping with rain, and in a trembling whisper Maya heard, "You took what was mine." The room was swallowed in darkness. The only sound, the rain's whisper against the glass and Maya's heartbeat pulsing in her ears. The silhouette in the doorway didn't move. For a moment, time felt suspended, a nightmare caught between thunder and silence. Then Ethan lunged forward, slamming the door shut. The handle rattled once, twice, then stopped. Whoever was out there was gone, or waiting. "Ethan," Maya gasped, backing away. What did she mean? Who was that? He pressed his back against the door, chest heaving. It wasn't her, he whispered. It can't be. But you heard her, Maya said, voice trembling. You heard Lila. Ethan turned toward her slowly, his expression unreadable, somewhere between terror and denial. She's dead, Maya. She's gone. That's what everyone keeps forgetting. But the photo, she pressed. You said it's fake. He nodded too quickly. Someone's trying to manipulate you. Maybe Liam. Maybe the police. Maybe you? The words slipped out before she could stop them. Ethan froze. For a heartbeat, something raw flashed across his face, hurt, sharp, and unguarded. You really think I'd do that to you? Maya swallowed hard, guilt crawling up her throat. I don't know what to think anymore, Ethan. You keep saying you want to protect me, but every time I ask for the truth, you shut down. He looked away, running a hand through his damp hair. Because the truth doesn't save people, Maya. It destroys them. For a long moment, neither spoke. The rain filled the silence. Maya finally picked up her phone from the floor. The screen cracked from the drop. The image was still there, grainy, rain-streaked, but unmistakably Ethan and Lila beneath the streetlight. She turned it toward him. This picture exists, and if it's real, then everything you've told me is a lie. He didn't answer. I'm sending it to someone, she said quietly. A friend who does photo verification. Ethan's head snapped up. Don't. She stepped back. Why not? Because if it's real, you'll wish you hadn't seen it. That stopped her for a second. Then she pressed send. He closed his eyes, exhaling slowly. You just set something in motion you can't take back. Hours passed. The storm eased into a misty drizzle. Ethan sat by the window, staring at the city lights like they held answers he couldn't reach. Maya hovered by her laptop, waiting for the reply. At 2:13 a.m., it came. A soft ping. One new email. Her hands trembled as she clicked it open. Subject: verification complete. The message was short, 3 lines from the analyst. Image integrity, confirmed. No signs of manipulation. Timestamp metadata, 3 weeks ago. Location data, matches your current address. Maya read it twice, her breath catching. Ethan, she whispered. He turned, eyes hollow, voice low. What did it say? She showed him the screen. It's real. The photo was taken 3 weeks ago, right outside this building. He stared at her. No denial this time, no anger. Just silence. The kind that felt heavier than any confession. Say something, she pleaded. Please. Ethan's lips parted, but his voice came out faint, broken. Then I didn't lose her after all. What do you mean? Maya stepped closer, desperate. Ethan, what are you saying? He met her eyes, a flicker of sorrow in them that chilled her more than fear ever could. I think she came back for me. The lights flickered again. Maya turned toward the window and froze. Across the street, beneath the flickering lamp, a woman stood in the rain. Her hair clung to her face, her white dress soaked through. In her hand, something glinted, a small ring box. She looked up directly at Maya's apartment window and smiled. Maya gasped, stepping back from the glass. The ring box fell open in the woman's hand, revealing 2 rings inside, both engraved with the same initials, E+M. Maya stood frozen, her breath fogging the window pane. The woman outside didn't move, just stared up with that same haunting smile, the kind that felt rehearsed, wrong. Ethan was still staring at the email, the glow from the laptop casting ghostly light across his face. She came back for me, he murmured again, almost to himself. Then came the knock. 3 soft, deliberate taps. Maya's chest tightened. Ethan. He looked up, startled. his expression flickering between dread and disbelief. "Don't open it." But curiosity outweighed fear. Her feet moved before her mind caught up. She reached the door, pulse pounding, and slowly turned the knob. The woman from the street stood there, rain-soaked, trembling, but unmistakably alive. "Hi," she said softly, her voice fragile like the echo of a memory. "You must be Maya." Maya's heart dropped. "You know my name? I've been looking for you." Her lips trembled. I didn't know who else to go to. Ethan was behind Maya now, silent as a shadow. His eyes widened, his lips parted. "Lila?" The woman flinched at the name, her gaze darting toward him. "You," her voice cracked. "You don't get to say my name." Maya turned, confusion splitting her thoughts apart. "You know him?" Lila's voice sharpened. "He kept me, locked away, said no one would believe me. He told the world I was dead." Ethan stepped back like he'd been struck. "That's not true. Maya, don't listen to her. She's what?" Lila snapped. "A ghost? You'd like that, wouldn't you? Makes the story cleaner." Maya's mind spun. She looked from one to the other, Ethan's wounded disbelief, Lila's shaking fury. Both faces were painted in grief and secrets. Both were breaking before her eyes. Lila's voice softened suddenly, trembling. "He took everything from me. My family thought I ran away, but I didn't. I tried to leave and he..." She stopped, tears spilling down. "He said if I did, he'd make sure no one ever found me again." Maya felt sick. The air between them felt heavy, electric. "Ethan?" she whispered. He stepped closer, voice trembling. "I never hurt her, Maya. I saved her. She was losing herself. She begged me not to let them take her." "Who's them?" Maya asked. Ethan shook his head, eyes darting toward the door. "She's not Lila. I don't know who she is, but she's not..." Lila laughed then, a broken, trembling sound. "You still think you can lie your way out of this?" She reached into her soaked coat and pulled out something, a photograph, warped from rain. It showed Ethan and Lila, smiling, young, in love. But scribbled across the image in red ink were 3 words. "He took me." Maya stumbled back, her head spinning. "Ethan, what is this?" He didn't answer. He just stared at the photo as if it were a mirror reflecting a version of himself he no longer recognized. "Please," he whispered finally. "Don't believe her." But Maya could barely hear him over the roar of her own pulse. Everything felt upside down, the lines between truth and madness blurring. Then another sound cut through the chaos, the sharp click of the front door unlocking from the inside. Lila turned, startled. "What did you..." Ethan shook his head. "I didn't touch it." The door creaked open on its own, wind howling in from the corridor. For a moment all 3 of them froze. Then a low voice drifted through the darkness, quiet, distorted, familiar. "You shouldn't all be here. Together." Maya's blood ran cold. Ethan's face drained of color. Lila's hand tightened around Maya's wrist. "We have to go," she whispered urgently. "Why?" Maya breathed. Lila's eyes filled with something between terror and sorrow. "Because the real Ethan Cole doesn't talk like that." The lights flickered. Ethan turned toward the voice at the door. And there, in the dim hall, stood another man. He looked exactly like him. The room was suffocatingly silent. The second Ethan, identical down to the scar above his brow, stood at the doorway, eyes cold and calculating. For one breathless moment, Maya couldn't tell which one was real. Then the lights flickered again, and the stranger was gone. Ethan locked the door, chest heaving. "You saw him too?" he whispered, voice unsteady. Maya nodded, words trapped in her throat. But when she turned toward Lila, the woman was pale and shaking, gripping her arm like she might vanish if she let go. "Who was that?" Maya breathed. Ethan didn't answer. His gaze darted to Lila. Suspicion, grief, and fear all crashing behind his eyes. "That wasn't a person," he muttered. "That was a shadow of me." The words made no sense, yet something in the way he said them made Maya's skin prickle. Later that night, while Ethan sealed the windows and unplugged every electronic device, Maya noticed something odd. A faint, jagged scar running down Lila's left shoulder. In the photos she'd seen online, Lila had no such mark. And beneath the collarbone, a faint birthmark, mirrored, like it was on the wrong side of her body. Maya's mind began to race. She had seen that same birthmark before, in the reflection of a broken mirror the night Ethan first helped her. Her thoughts were still swirling when Ethan finally sat across from her, exhaustion etched across his face. "You deserve to know," he began, voice hoarse. The Veil Project wasn't just an experiment. It was a government-funded identity reconstruction program. They wanted to rewrite people, memories, faces, even emotions. I was part of it. Maya blinked, her heartbeat thundering. "You're saying they changed you?" Ethan nodded slowly. "They erased us, turned grief into obedience. But something went wrong. I remembered Lila, and I ran. I thought I could live as someone else, someone normal. But they don't let their ghosts leave." The words fell heavy between them. Maya looked at Lila, who was trembling, silent. "Then who is she?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "A copy, a construct. Maybe they made her to find me. Maybe they made her to punish me." Lila suddenly slammed her hands on the table. "Stop talking about me like I'm not real," she screamed, eyes wild. "You don't remember, do you? You were supposed to come back for me." Maya recoiled. "You said he locked you up." "I said what I remembered," Lila snapped. "But memories lie. They made them lie." The tension snapped like a thread pulled too tight. Ethan rose slowly, his voice trembling. "If they brought her back, they can bring anyone back." Maya's hands trembled. "Anyone?" He nodded. "Even those who were never meant to exist?" The power flickered again, plunging them into half-darkness. Shadows rippled across the mirror above the fireplace, and for a brief, horrifying moment, Maya saw 3 reflections. Hers, Ethan's, and one of Lila, smiling when she wasn't. Ethan grabbed her wrist, yanking her back. "Don't look at it," he hissed, but curiosity overpowered fear. Maya turned toward the mirror again, and the image shifted. Lila's reflection leaned closer, whispering words that didn't come from her real mouth. "You always had your mother's eyes, Maya." The world tilted. Maya stumbled backward, heart in her throat. "What did you just say?" Lila blinked, confused. "What?" Ethan stared between them. "Maya, what's wrong?" Her voice broke as she whispered. "Only one person ever called me that. My mother. She died when I was 9. Ethan froze. Then how would she? He didn't finish, because Lila was smiling now, slowly, sadly. And in that smile, Maya saw something impossible. Recognition. "You don't remember me yet," Lila said softly, her tone eerily tender. "But I remember every version of you." The lights shattered, the mirror cracked, and through the reflection, another Maya stared back, smiling faintly as if she'd been waiting all along. The sound of shattering glass lingered in the air like an echo from another world. The mirror was fractured, each splintered shard reflecting a different version of Maya. One crying, one blank, one smiling. Ethan rushed to her, brushing shards off her trembling hands. "Don't look at it," he whispered. "They use reflections. They hide things in them." But Maya wasn't listening. Her pulse thundered in her ears, drowning everything. She knew my mother," she murmured, eyes still fixed on the broken mirror. "How could she know that? Ethan, how?" He didn't answer at first. His expression was hollow, not with fear, but with guilt. Because, he finally said, voice cracking, she didn't remember your mother. She was told about her. Maya frowned. Told? By who? Ethan hesitated, as if each word weighed 1,000 pounds. By them, the same people who made her, and who remade you. The room went dead silent. Maya took a step back. What are you talking about? You were in the program too, Ethan said, his tone trembling. 2 years ago, after your car accident. They said they could help, fix the trauma, repair what was lost. But it wasn't therapy, Maya. It was reconstruction. Her throat tightened. No, that's not possible. I remember the accident, the hospital. He shook his head. Do you remember the name of your doctor? She opened her mouth to answer, and froze. The memory blurred as if someone had poured ink over it. She could see white walls, a woman in scrubs, a voice saying, "You'll be whole again." But no face, no name. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered. I tried, Ethan said, voice trembling. But you were happy. You smiled again. I thought maybe you were better off not knowing. Tears burned her eyes. So what am I, Ethan? A replacement? A lie? He stepped closer, desperate. No, you're still you. You feel? That's real. The experiment didn't erase your soul. It only rewrote the pain. But his words barely reached her. Maya's thoughts spun violently. Flashes of her past flickered and twisted. Her childhood home, her ex-fiancé's face, her best friend's voice, all blurring, skipping, glitching like broken film. Her hand went to her temple, feeling an ache pulsing deep beneath the skin. And then, something metallic. Her breath caught. Slowly, trembling, she brushed her fingers behind her ear and froze. There it was. A faint line. A thin, raised scar she had never noticed before. Ethan. Her voice cracked. What is this? He looked away, unable to speak. Maya's pulse hammered. She dug her nails slightly into the spot and winced as something clicked. A whisper, not from outside but inside her head. Static, faint, mechanical. Subject 09. Anomaly detected. Sequence instability. Maya stumbled backward, eyes wide in horror. What was that? Ethan rushed forward, panic flashing in his eyes. They're tracking you. They know you're remembering. What do you mean tracking me? She shouted. Before he could answer, the lights went out. Total darkness. Only the faint hum of that metallic whisper remained, looping, clearer this time. Memory breach confirmed. Reset imminent. Maya's breath quickened. Ethan, what's happening to me? He grabbed her shoulders, shaking, his voice breaking through the dark. You were never supposed to wake up, Maya. A high-pitched tone filled the room, and Maya screamed, clutching her head as blue light pulsed beneath the scar behind her ear. Her reflection in the broken mirror blinked, a second slower than she did. The light beneath Maya's skin flickered like lightning trapped under flesh. She gasped, clutching her head, but before the pain could drown her, Ethan slammed something cold and metallic against the back of her ear, a signal jammer. The pulsing stopped. Silence. For a moment, all she could hear was her own ragged breathing. What was that? She whispered, shaking. Ethan's voice trembled. A failsafe. They put them in all subjects, in case memories resurfaced. It's how they control you. Maya stumbled back. Control me? Her voice cracked with disbelief. I'm not one of your subjects, Ethan. He didn't argue. He only looked at her with a sorrow that made her heart twist. There's something you need to see, he said quietly. He reached into the drawer beneath his workbench, one she'd never seen him open before, and pulled out a small black drive, its surface scratched and scuffed, like it had survived a fire. This is the truth they tried to erase. Maya's hands shook as she inserted it into his old laptop. The screen flickered to life, and the moment the video began, her blood ran cold. A sterile white room, monitors, tubes, a woman strapped to a table. Her. Maya's breath caught in her throat as she stared at her own body lying unconscious, wires snaking from her head, her face pale and still. Scientists in masks moved around her, murmuring words that made her stomach twist. Memory extraction complete. Preparing overwrite. And then, Ethan, younger, desperate, his voice echoing through the speakers. "You can't do this. Don't erase her again." He was restrained by 2 guards, struggling violently. One of the scientists turned to him and said coldly, "She was never yours to keep, Mr. Cole. She's data now." "She's human," he screamed, lunging forward before they injected something into his neck. The footage cut out and static swallowing the image. Maya's trembling fingers brushed her lips. "This isn't real," she whispered. "It can't be." But Ethan's silence said otherwise. "I tried to stop them," he murmured, voice breaking. "After Lila, after they took her, I couldn't let them take you too. They said they could fix your mind, make you forget the pain. But they didn't fix you, Maya. They rebuilt you." Tears blurred her vision. "So what am I now? Their experiment? Your guilt?" He took a step closer, eyes glistening. "You're my second chance." The room went still. His words hung between them like a confession and a curse all at once. She turned away, trembling, staring at the laptop's frozen frame. Her unconscious self. A woman she didn't even remember being. A life she never chose. Her fingers brushed the keyboard, accidentally restarting the footage. But this time, the screen didn't show her in the lab. It showed a corporate logo flashing briefly in the corner of the screen. The Veil Corporation. Maya's breath caught. "It's real," she whispered. "It's all real." Ethan nodded grimly. "And they'll do anything to keep it buried." Before she could respond, a soft click echoed from outside the door. Metal sliding against metal. Maya froze. Ethan's expression changed instantly. He whispered, "They found us." The door burst open. White light flooding the apartment. Silhouetted figures in lab coats and masks stepped inside. One of them held up a tablet showing Maya's face, labeled, "Subject 09, Recovery Protocol Initiated." Ethan whispered, "Run." "Run!" Ethan shouted, and before Maya could think, his hand locked around hers. They burst through the back door into the night, into a wall of rain that came down like punishment from heaven. The world outside was a blur of motion and sound, pounding footsteps, shouts behind them, the metallic hum of drones sweeping overhead. The rain felt alive, relentless, washing away every sense of safety she had left. They sprinted through the alley, splashing through puddles that reflected flashes of blue light from the agent's scanners. Ethan shoved her behind a dumpster just as a beam of white light swept across the street. Maya clutched her chest, heart hammering. "Where are we going?" she gasped. Ethan wiped water from his face, his eyes scanning the rooftops. "Somewhere they can't track your signal. The jammer won't last long." Then the pain started, a sharp, searing ache at the base of her skull, like fire beneath her skin. She pressed her palms to her head, choking back a scream as fragmented images flickered behind her eyes. A girl crying in the dark, a fire roaring through metal halls, Ethan's voice shouting her name, not Maya, but something else. "Stop fighting it," Ethan urged, gripping her shoulders. "Your memories are sinking. Just breathe." But she couldn't. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed into the mud as visions overtook her. She saw a laboratory engulfed in flames, glass shattering, alarms screaming. Through the smoke, a man dragged her by the arm, shielding her from the explosion. Ethan, his face streaked with ash, eyes wild with fear. Then another voice. A woman's voice, terrified, begging, "Please don't let them take my sister." The sound cut through her like a blade. Maya's body trembled. That voice, she knew that voice. Lila, Her chest tightened as the images shifted again. Flashes of two young girls in a garden laughing, one older, one younger, sharing a silver necklace between them. Promise we'll never leave each other. Tears mingled with the rain. Maya gasped, clutching her head as the final image burned through, her sister's hand slipping from hers as flames consumed the lab, and Ethan dragging her away while shouting, "Lila's gone! We have to go!" When her eyes snapped open, the world tilted. The rain fell harder, thunder cracking across the sky as if echoing her breaking mind. She looked at Ethan, soaked, trembling, haunted. "You saved me," she whispered, "from the fire." His expression twisted with pain. "I had to. They wanted to use you after her. You were next." Maya's voice dropped to a whisper. "But why? Why me?" Ethan's gaze faltered. He hesitated. Too long. And that was when the final puzzle piece slid into place. The memories aligned. The laughter, the fire, the promise, the loss. She stared at him, realization dawning like lightning in her chest. I wasn't just part of the veil, was I? Ethan said nothing, just lowered his head, rain dripping from his hair like tears. "You knew," she whispered. "You knew from the start." "Maya," his voice was raw. "You don't remember your last name because it was erased." Her breath hitched. "Then tell me." He met her gaze, eyes full of guilt, love, and despair. "Your name wasn't Maya." Her pulse thundered. "Then what was it?" He swallowed hard, voice breaking as he whispered the truth. "You were Lila's sister." The rain stilled around them, as if the sky itself was listening. A flash of white light exploded from the alley, drones descending, voices shouting, "Subject 09 located." Maya turned toward Ethan in horror. "You knew all along," he whispered, "and I'd do it again." The rain swallowed his words, and the sound of a gunshot followed. The sound of the gunshot cracked through the rain. Maya froze, her ears ringing, the world dissolving into a blur of echoes and lightning. When her vision steadied, Ethan was on his knees, clutching his shoulder, blood mixing with rainwater as it poured down his arm. The drone lights hovered above them, mechanical voices echoing. Subject 09, recapture protocol initiated. Ethan groaned, reaching into his coat. A pulse emitter burst to life in his hand, flashing blue. The drones sparked, stuttered, then fell smoking into the puddles. "Maya, listen to me," he rasped, his voice barely audible over the thunder. "You have to remember who you were. Before all this." She knelt beside him, trembling. "Ethan, stop talking like that, you're bleeding." He grabbed her wrist with surprising strength, his eyes locking onto hers. "You weren't Maya. That name was part of the program. They called you that after the wipe." Her heart lurched. "Then who am I?" He hesitated, the weight of years pressing on his words. "Your name was Amelia Reynolds." Time seemed to stop. The rain slowed. Even her heartbeat went still. "Amelia," she whispered, as if saying it might wake something long asleep. "You volunteered for the erasure," Ethan continued, his voice shaking. "You couldn't live with what happened that night. You wanted to forget." Fragments of memory began to return like shards of broken glass. The fire, Lila's scream, the smell of burning steel, and her own voice shouting, "Take me instead." Tears welled in her eyes. "You're lying. I would never choose to forget her." Ethan looked away. "You did it to survive. They told you it was the only way to stop the nightmares, to stop the pain." She shook her head violently, clutching her temples. No, that can't be true." He winced as another wave of pain crossed his face. "I tried to save both of you. Lila was trapped under the beam and I pulled you out first, but the fire, it was too fast." His voice cracked. "I went back, Amelia. I swear I did." The rain blurred her vision, but not enough to hide the anguish on his face. In that moment, something shifted inside her. The fractures of her stolen identity, aligning with the grief she had buried under layers of false memory. Amelia. Lila's sister, the girl who chose to forget. She pressed a trembling hand to the scar behind her ear, feeling the faint pulse of the implant. The doorway that had locked her past away. "Ethan," she whispered, tears mixing with rain. "If what you're saying is true, then everything I've lived since has been a lie." He looked at her with something between sorrow and love. "No, it was the only truth you could bear." She turned away, her voice breaking. "Then why tell me now?" "Because they're coming for you again," he said. "And this time they don't want to erase you. They want to rewrite you." A low hum filled the air, the sound of engines approaching through the storm. Ethan's eyes widened. "Go. Now." "I'm not leaving you." "Amelia, please," he begged, blood pooling beneath him. "You have to finish what we started." Before she could respond, her wristband buzzed, a flicker of light through the downpour. A new message appeared on the cracked screen. "Unknown number. Come to where it started." Her pulse spiked. The letters glowed faintly before the device powered down. She looked up at Ethan, confusion and dread flooding her voice. "What does it mean?" He smiled weakly, rain streaking down his face. "It means someone else remembers you, and they want you to remember too." Lightning tore across the sky, illuminating the ruins behind them. And in the distance, a silhouette stood beneath a flickering streetlight, unmoving, watching. Amelia took a step forward. "Who is that?" Ethan's grip tightened around her wrist, his voice a hoarse whisper. "That's where it began, and where it all ends." The figure raised a phone to their ear. Amelia's device buzzed again, a live call this time. A voice, calm and familiar, whispered through the rain. "Welcome back, Amelia. We've been waiting for you." The line went dead. The road to the lake was a ghost of memory, long, narrow, and lined with trees that whispered in the rain. Amelia drove in silence, her fingers gripping the wheel until her knuckles whitened. Ethan sat beside her, pale and weak, one hand pressed against his bandaged shoulder. The air between them was thick with everything they hadn't said. The headlights cut through the fog, revealing the charred outline of the house. It stood like a corpse against the mist, its roof half collapsed, its windows black with soot. Amelia slowed to a stop, her breath catching. "This is where it happened," she murmured. Ethan nodded faintly, where everything ended and began again. They stepped out into the cold drizzle. The scent of burnt wood and wet earth clung to the air, mingling with echoes of the past, laughter, music, and the moment the world had turned to fire. Each step Amelia took across the broken boards seemed to unlock another piece of her lost life. In the remains of what once was the living room, she stopped. Beneath a half-buried floorboard, something glinted in the flashlight's beam. She knelt and pried it loose, revealing a small metal box, charred at the edges but intact. "What is that?" Ethan asked hoarsely. "I don't know," she whispered, "but I think I left it for myself." Her hands trembled as she pried open the rusted latch. Inside lay a single flash drive wrapped in a scorched piece of ribbon, the same ribbon from her childhood hairband. She glanced at Ethan, heart pounding. "There's a laptop in the car." They hurried back to the vehicle, the rain falling harder now, drumming against the roof as thunder rolled across the lake. Amelia inserted the drive. The screen flickered and a video began to play. It was her, but younger, her hair longer, eyes filled with fire and grief. "If you're watching this," the recording said, "then you've forgotten. You chose to." Ethan's breath caught. Amelia's recorded self continued, voice trembling yet resolute. "I forgive you, Ethan, for saving me instead of her. I know you didn't mean for any of this. I needed to forget to survive. But if I remember again, please, remind me why we loved it all. Tears streamed down Amelia's face. The past and present collided, shattering the fragile wall between them. She turned to Ethan, voice breaking. You tried to save us both, all this time. I blamed you for something you couldn't change. He reached for her hand, his own trembling. I never stopped trying to make it right, even when they turned me into their experiment. You were the only thing that kept me human. For a moment it felt as if the world stood still, two souls bound by tragedy, finally breathing the same truth again. Then, a sound cut through the rain, a crunch of tires on gravel. Ethan's expression hardened. He turned toward the window, eyes narrowing as shadows moved beyond the trees. They found us, he said. Amelia's pulse spiked. Who? The veil. The headlights of black vehicles pierced the darkness surrounding the ruins of the house. Armed men in tactical gear fanned out, flashlights sweeping across the wet earth. Ethan grabbed her hand. There's a tunnel under the floor, and your father built it after the fire. How do you? I helped him hide it, he said, voice low and urgent. He knew they'd come back one day. The crack of gunfire split the night, echoing across the lake. Go, Ethan shouted, pushing her toward the ruins. But Amelia hesitated, torn between fear and the man who had carried her through every storm. Outside, a voice boomed through a loudspeaker, cold and mechanical. Subject 09 and Subject 11, surrender immediately. Non-compliance will result in termination. The rain fell harder. The old house creaked, as if remembering the fire that had once consumed it. Amelia took one last look at Ethan, her voice trembling. We end this tonight. A flash grenade burst through the window, white light swallowing everything. When the smoke cleared, Amelia was gone. Ethan stumbled through the haze, calling her name. Then he saw it, the same symbol from the Veil Corporation glowing faintly on the floorboards, pulsing like a heartbeat, and beneath it written in fresh red ink, Welcome home, Subject 11. Rain hammered against the earth like bullets as the house exploded into chaos. The flash grenade's white light still burned behind Amelia's eyes as she staggered through the smoke, coughing, heart thundering in her chest. The floorboards groaned and split open beneath her, just as Ethan had said, revealing a dark passageway leading under the ruins. Ethan! She screamed, reaching back into the haze. He emerged, half dragging himself, blood running down his arm from a gunshot wound. Go, Amelia. Move. She hesitated for a heartbeat too long, and another round of gunfire tore through the doorway, splintering the frame inches from her head. Ethan shoved her down into the tunnel and dropped after her, pulling the hatch closed just as boots thundered above. The tunnel was pitch dark and soaked with groundwater. Every breath came out ragged as they crawled through mud, guided only by the dim glow of Ethan's cracked phone screen. Keep going, he rasped, his breathing uneven. It leads to the old boat dock. What about you? She whispered, seeing the dark stain spreading across his shirt. He forced a weak smile. I've had worse. Outside, thunder split the sky, and the sound of sirens echoed faintly in the distance. The Veil wasn't just a corporation, it was a machine, and it had found its missing pieces. They burst out into the storm, the lake stretching before them like a sheet of black glass. Lightning flashed, revealing men in pursuit across the ridge. This way, Ethan gasped, pulling her toward a half-sunken motorboat tethered to a rotting dock. The rain was relentless, drenching them as the engine sputtered to life. Bullets tore into the water behind them as the boat lurched forward. Amelia gripped the edge, eyes wide, wind whipping her hair across her face. Why won't they stop? Because you're the last one, Ethan said, voice barely audible over the storm. The only surviving prototype. The Veil erased the rest. Her stomach dropped. Prototype? He looked at her, eyes raw, desperate, filled with something deeper than pain. They didn't just rebuild memories, Amelia, they made them. You weren't supposed to exist after the fire. He grimaced, clutching his wound. They used my mind to fill in what they erased from yours. Lightning flashed again, revealing the agony in his expression. She stared at him, trembling. You mean my memories of us? Every smile, every song, every time I fixed your broken tap, he choked out. They were built from the fragments of what I remembered losing. Tears mingled with rain on her cheeks. No, that's not true. It is, he said softly, his voice fading. But what we built after, what you felt, was real. You made it real. A gunshot cracked through the air. Ethan jerked violently, a bloom of red spreading across his chest. Amelia screamed, catching him before he fell. No, no, stay with me, she cried, pressing her hands against the wound. His breathing grew shallow, rain mixing with the blood on his skin. They wanted a ghost, and I gave them an angel. Ethan, please. He reached up weakly, brushing a strand of wet hair from her face. I always knew your real name, he whispered. She froze. What? Amelia. Reynolds. The sound of his voice cracked as thunder rolled again. His eyes began to glaze, but a faint smile lingered on his lips. Don't let them take you again, he breathed. And then, his hand slipped from hers. The boat drifted aimlessly into the storm, lightning splitting the sky as if mourning the moment. Amelia shook him, sobbing, screaming his name into the wind, but the rain swallowed her voice. Then, through the sheets of rain, a red laser sight appeared on her chest. She turned, eyes wide, heart hammering. A figure stood on the shore, the same private investigator from before, his weapon aimed at her heart. He lowered his gun slightly and shouted over the storm, voice distorted by thunder. You're not who you think you are, Amelia. Ethan wasn't the only one they used. The words hit her harder than the rain, and in the lightning's flash, she saw it. The veil symbol branded faintly into her own wrist, glowing beneath the skin. The storm had softened to a steady drizzle, the world gray and trembling. Maya, or Amelia, as the truth now demanded, dragged Ethan's limp body through the drenched woods, her arms shaking with exhaustion. His blood painted a dark trail on the leaves behind them, glistening in the faint light of dawn. Hold on, she whispered, her voice breaking. Just a little more. The lake roared behind her like a wounded animal, the air still humming with thunder. Every step up the muddy path felt like a war between her body and her breaking heart. She didn't know where else to go, only that Ethan deserved to see the sun one last time. When she reached the cliff, the one overlooking the endless valley where they'd first met, she collapsed beside him. The world was silent except for the slow rhythm of his fading breaths and the distant rumble of the storm dying behind them. He stirred weakly, eyes fluttering open. You shouldn't have come back here, he rasped. She smiled through tears. You always said this was the only place that felt real. Ethan's lips twitched into a faint smile. You remember that? I remember everything now, she said, pressing his hand against her heart. Even the things I wish I didn't. For a moment, neither spoke. The sunrise began to break through the clouds, golden light cutting across the rain-soaked sky. It spilled over the cliffs, painting their faces in a soft, fragile warmth, the kind that comes only after chaos. You were right, Maya whispered, her voice trembling. They took my memories, my name, my past. But you gave me something real. You made me human again. Ethan's eyes were glassy, his breath shallow. That's all I ever wanted. For you to live, free from them. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she brushed his wet hair back, her fingers trembling. You can't leave me, Ethan. Not after everything. Not when I finally remember who I am. He managed a weak laugh, his voice a ghost in the wind. Then remember this too, that I never stopped loving you. Not as Lila's sister, not as Maya, Just you." Maya's sob turned into a fragile smile as she leaned closer. "You stayed when everyone else left." She kissed him, soft, desperate, eternal. The rain glistened like tears around them, and for a moment, time itself seemed to pause. Then she felt it. The stillness, the warmth leaving his hand, the silence where his heartbeat should have been. "No," she whispered, shaking him, panic breaking through grief. "Ethan, please don't do this." The wind rose, carrying her cry into the valley below. The sunrise blazed stronger, washing everything in gold as if to honor the last of him. She pressed her forehead to his and whispered, "If they made me forget again, I'll still find you." The sound of footsteps behind her shattered the fragile silence. Slow, deliberate. Maya turned, her face streaked with tears. Standing at the edge of the trees was a woman, her reflection. The same eyes, the same face, but colder. "Hello, Amelia," the woman said softly. "I told you, you were never the only one." As the first light of dawn hit both their faces, Maya froze, because the woman's wrist glowed faintly with the same veil symbol beneath the skin. And when she smiled, it was Ethan's voice that came out. "You shouldn't have tried to save me." The world had grown quieter since that morning on the cliff. The storm had passed, but in Maya's heart it never truly stopped raining. Months had crawled by, soft gray days stitched together by silence. The veil was gone, dismantled and exposed, yet the truth it left behind haunted her more than any lie. Her memories had returned in fragments: laughter under broken streetlights, shared coffee in the hallway, his gentle smile when words failed her. Every piece came back sharper than before, each one a shard of the life she once shared with Ethan Cole, the man who stayed when everyone else left. Now, she stood before a simple headstone. Ethan Cole, the man who remembered. The cemetery was nearly empty, except for the drizzle tapping softly against her umbrella. In her hand, she carried a single paper cup, the same brand, the same handwriting on its side. For the sleepless ones. She knelt and placed it on the stone, tracing his name with trembling fingers. "You hated being remembered like this," she whispered, a sad smile tugging at her lips. "You said graves were for people who stopped living, and I can't seem to stop." Her voice cracked as the wind carried the scent of rain-soaked soil. "I remember everything now. The night we met, the fire, the lies, the love. You said they built me out of memories, but the only thing real was you." Lightning flashed faintly in the distance, echoing like an old heartbeat. She laughed softly through tears. "You'd probably tell me to stop talking to ghosts." As she stood to leave, the rain began to fall harder, each drop cold, deliberate, almost aware. The kind of rain that seemed to listen. She took one step, then froze. From behind her, carried on the hush of rainfall, came a voice, warm, familiar, impossibly real. "For the sleepless ones," it whispered. Her breath caught. Slowly she turned. The cemetery was empty, only gray tombstones and swaying trees. Yet, there it was, the faint aroma of black coffee and cinnamon, the one he always brewed too strong. Her umbrella slipped from her hands, hitting the wet ground with a dull thud. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice barely audible. A gust of wind swept through, scattering leaves across the graves. Maya's tears mixed with the rain as she knelt again, staring at the cup she'd left behind. Another cup now sat beside it, still steaming. She hadn't brought it. Her fingers trembled as she touched it, the warmth seeping into her skin. A faint mark on the lid, the same smudge of ink he used to leave when he wrote his notes. Her lips parted in disbelief, a breathless sob breaking free. "You stayed?" Thunder rumbled softly, not menacing, but tender, like laughter carried through clouds. The camera pans up slowly, from Maya's shaking hands to the twin coffee cups beside Ethan's grave, to the rain falling heavier now. Each droplet catches the morning light until for a fleeting second, they form his outline. Tall, gentle, watching her with the same quiet devotion he always had. The silhouette flickers, fading into mist. Maya looks up through the rain, tears and laughter mingling on her face. "Then I'll keep talking," she whispers. "Every morning, until the rain stops." The sound fades, her heartbeat, the rainfall, the wind. Only one faint echo remains, carried through the mist. "It won't stop, Maya. Not while you remember me." The camera lingers on the 2 coffee cups. Steam rises, twisting together like 2 invisible hands holding on. As the screen fades to black, the rain shapes one final word on the stone. Always.